God Level Duplication System. Chapter 73. It was a hard fight. You should die. Lin Xuan sneered and attacked as well. They were both using the same fist technique. Tyrant Fist. He threw out a punch with a domineering aura. The violent fist force cracked the air and pushed forward. When the disciples of the inner sect saw Lin Xuan, a new disciple, choose to fight Zhao Gang head-on, they became even more sarcastic. Many of them were laughing coldly. They didn't need to think to know that the right arm of this new disciple was going to be crippled. 1. A new disciple actually dared to confront a 7th level of Qi transformation stage old disciple like Zhao Gang. This wasn't the way to seek death. Seeing this, Zhao Gang also let out a ferocious laugh. He increased the strength of his fist by another 30%. In the next moment, under the eyes of everyone on the field, the two fist forces collided. Bang! A deafening explosion was heard. The aftershock of the fist force spread out in all directions, causing the surrounding disciples to retreat continuously. However, everyone could not care about this. Their eyes were focused on the room, wanting to see the result of this confrontation. However, the miserable cries that they had expected did not ring out. Inside the room, two people's fists collided once, and then each retreated. However, Lin Xuan only took 3 steps back, and with a slight sway, he was fine. His expression was still cold, as if nothing had happened. On the other side, Zhao Gang's expression changed. He felt a domineering force surging towards him like thousands of waves. He could not help but retreat. He retreated more than 10 meters, and when he hit the wall, there was a muffled sound. He then stopped. He grunted, and a trace of blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. This time, through the exchange of blows between the two of them, it was easy to determine who was stronger and who was weaker. Upon seeing this, all the disciples were dumbfounded. They stood rooted to the ground in disbelief. It took some time for someone to react. Instantly, a large number of people in the crowd expressed their astonishment. The competition field also instantly boiled up. I'm not dreaming, am I? This new disciple actually sent Zhao Gang back with a single punch. Has he even injured Zhao Gang? Is he really a new Qi transformation stage level 1 disciple? How can there be such an abnormal new disciple? Maybe Zhao Gang didn't use his true strength? Then he's really amazing. All the disciples were discussing amongst themselves. Their eyes fell upon Lin Xuan, and they were filled with shock. They initially thought that after the two of them clashed, Lin Xuan would probably let out a miserable shriek and then step back. One of his arms would even be crippled. This was the normal thing to do. But now, the situation was completely the opposite. Lin Xuan was fine. It was Zhao Gang, a veteran 7th level of Qi transformation stage from the inner sect, who had retreated and was injured. The gap between them was so huge that all the disciples couldn't believe it. Even though they had regained their senses now, they were still deeply shocked. A new Qi transformation stage level 1 disciple was able to surpass the 6th level and defeat an old 7th level Qi transformation stage disciple. Such a scene was truly frightening. It had been many years since the inner sect had such a scene. Among the 20 over true disciples, only a few of them could do such a thing when they were still disciples of the inner sect. But now, this has happened right in front of them. They felt like they were in a dream, and they couldn't believe it. The shock in their hearts couldn't be calmed down for a long time. On the battlefield, Zhao Gang's lackeys were also frightened. They never thought that their boss had always been invincible in this region. Today, he had actually encountered a tough opponent. The key was that his opponent was also a new disciple. It was truly shocking. Fear could be seen in their eyes as they kept retreating. They were no longer as arrogant and reckless as before. A few more people ran over to help Zhao Gang up and hid behind him. Only in this way could they feel a sense of security. Zhao Gang also looked at Lin Xuan. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his face was as gloomy as water. He never thought that he would be defeated by a new disciple. However, his strongest technique was not his fist technique. His most powerful technique was his saber technique. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to deal with a new disciple. Today's matter couldn't be spread, or else he wouldn't be able to continue living in the future, and he wouldn't be able to go back and report it to the backstage. Thinking of this, Zhao Gang stretched out his hand and grabbed a heavy black blade appeared in his hand. Kid, you are very strong. You are just a new disciple of the inner sect, yet you have such strength. You are already considered a genius. Unfortunately, you met me. If I don't cripple you today, my surname won't be Zhao. Zhao Gang's expression was cold as he shouted. Very good. Lin Xuan's expression also became serious. This was what Zhou Yu meant by cruel, right? However, Lin Xuan never thought that Zhao Gang would be this cruel. He actually wanted to cripple Lin Xuan. In comparison, the outer sect was like heaven. No, perhaps the outer secretary was the same. It was just that he had risen too quickly, so he didn't have the time to feel it. However, he wasn't afraid of this at all. In martial arts world, the strong were respected, and the strong survived. He was prepared for this, but he didn't expect to encounter it so soon. But since he had come, he would settle this matter. Otherwise, he might encounter even more trouble in the future. After that, Lin Xuan took out the Bree sword and looked coldly at Zhao Gang. Then come and feel my blade. When the surrounding people saw this, they revealed shocked expressions. Zhao Gang has been angered. He will definitely use the knife technique he is best at. Can this new disciple block his attack? I don't know. It shouldn't be possible. Zhao Gang's cultivation base must be higher than that of that new disciple. Not necessarily. That punch just now, it was this new disciple who had the upper hand. That's true. All the disciples discussed in low voices. This time, no one dared to look down on Lin Xuan anymore. Lin Xuan had already used his strength to prove himself. Besides Zhao Gang, no one else in the arena was a match for Lin Xuan. They wouldn't dare offend him. Similarly, after witnessing the previous attack, they were no longer sure that Lin Xuan would lose. After all, Lin Xuan had already defeated someone who was 6 levels higher than him. It was not impossible for him to have an even more shocking performance. At the same time, all the disciples kept retreating. Even Zhao Gang's subordinates retreated out of the house in fear. From the previous attack, they could tell that both of them had reached the late Qi transformation stage. The power that erupted from these two men during the battle was something they couldn't withstand. They didn't dare to get any closer. They could only watch from afar. On the field. Die. Zhao Gang didn't waste any more time and slashed with his blade. Mountain crushing rock. A dark gray blade beam that looked like a stone flew out. A feeling of power spread out. The power spread out, and it was several times stronger than the previous punch. Its speed was also extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Lin Xuan. It slashed down heavily, and even the air was cleanly split into two. The faces of the disciples outside the house were heavy, and their hearts trembled. With such a blow, there was absolutely no one among them who could withstand it. Moreover, they would be heavily injured. How would Lin Xuan, a new disciple who had revealed his extraordinary strength, deal with this? Everyone's eyes gathered on Lin Xuan, waiting. At this moment, Lin Xuan moved.